Most people don't need more advice, just the courage to gently face what they've been avoiding.
Because growth sounds beautiful until it asks you to be honest with yourself and stay.
Hi, everyone. Yay. Welcome to this episode of Touched and Empowered, where we're going to talk about a little difference in mindset. Katie's mindset has been ever evolving since we've been a partnered pair. Um, and we've gotten to the level where I can explain my mindset. It still hurts, but it's not as bad as it would
That's
have
true.
been.
It's not as bad, it's not as overwhelming, it's not as scary because I guess the best way to say I can comprehend what it is you're trying to explain even if I don't fully understand all the nuts and bolts. I can at least kind of get the overall view, the overall image of it. Don't understand three-quarters of it, but that's okay. I don't have to understand right this moment. I understand, and I'm very grateful for that.
So Katie and I were discussing mindsets when it comes to money, the different,
Well, specifically, money from from having your own business.
right. And I was explaining the four levels of mindset. And I'm saying levels, but I'm going to say concepts.
Yeah, I would say concepts. I think concepts are better because you can go from
You
one
can do that.
concept to the other concept. It's not like you have to do them in a particular order.
Yeah, you can actually be all four at once if you want to.
That's true. That's true. That is a possibility.
Talking about conceptually speaking, employee to consult or a
Consultant.
consultant, to business owner, investor, right? And those are actually different types of mindsets when it comes to money, freedom and
Ma
independence,
management.
management of your own compliance.
Another component. I mean, overall components of whatever it is that you're doing.
Yes, as a person who gives and receives money,
Yes.
which I believe we all do at some capacity, or gives and receives stuff,
True.
value. Yeah.
Something of value. Give and receive value. I think that is the best term for it.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it's an interesting shift. And I know that I've said before that I've had mindset shifts from believing that I could only make money as an entrepreneur, as a employee, to believing that I can make money as an entrepreneur. And I know that my business is growing. The conversation that we were having was talking about altered alternative or additional avenues of income, which my brain took it as okay, path one, path two, path three, path four. Okay, I'm getting money from four different directions, not making the connection that they were all under the umbrella of my business or your business or the podcast or whatever. I hadn't considered labeling it that way.
Right. And it's interesting that you say that because, all right, so I was explaining these four concepts,
Hmm.
but then I was also explaining to Katie the ancillary as well. Like I hope I'm saying
So
that.
anyone who doesn't know that word, please define it.
We could ask Shadowbane.
What was it again?
Ancillary.
Ancillary? How in the
Yeah.
world do you spell that?
Give it a best shot. So as she's doing that, because I don't know how to spell it, um, I was explaining, so when it comes to these different concepts, as an employee, you receive a salary, you get your health benefits. The liability of what you do is taken care of by the company that you work for. And then normally, as an employee, oh no, go ahead.
The word you entered is not a recognizable English word, which means one of three things. There is a typo, this is jargon, or it's simply made up or misheard. Please try again. Okay.
So she's going to keep trying.
I'm
Back to
going to keep
employee.
trying because
Thank
sorry.
you. So back to employee. I love that everyone here has an ADHD mind as well. Um, so that's usually you're basically taken care of. You just have to go to your job and work, and depending on how many hours, usually allocated 40 hours a week or more, depending on if you also receive commission, whatever. Right. Then you receive your salary and all that fun in a package as your employee pays you to to work, and they actually pay for all of that for you too, which is something that people aren't aware of. Even like,
Right.
yeah, even insurance to an extent. So then you move to consultant. This is where you have become so good at a specific trade or craft that people actually ask for your advice. Companies ask for your advice, or just people ask for your advice for a better satisfying workflow or just to make things better. It could be like a, what do you call it, consultant, a tech consultant, like Katie,
Yep.
right? And then you ask per hour. This is still hourly, like people are still paying you for your time specifically. It could be 300 an hour.
Right. But it's more for expertise versus paying for you to do tasks during that time frame.
Exactly, exactly. But you still manage your own time, right? You
Hmm.
still, this time you don't have all the benefits of health insurance or retirement or what else is there? There's so many different things.
There's so many different things because it changes the way you do your taxes. It
Yeah.
changes the way you have to track every expense, whether it be a personal expense versus business expense. So things can sometimes get a little bit more complicated there if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's a W-9, right?
Yes, I
No,
receive,
yeah, it's a
yes,
W-9
it's a W-9. Is what I received when I was doing tech consulting.
for your taxes, yeah.
Hmm.
So when you think about it that way, that's a completely different organism of how you're operating day to day, right?
Right.
You get to choose your hours, you get to do what you want, you get to, well, I mean, you still get to choose your hours as an employee, but it's a little bit more limited in your options.
True, because you can only choose what's available by the company you're working for.
Exactly, exactly. Then we move to business owner. Now you're taking on the liability of anything that you do. So, for instance, if you do not have contracts in place, you can get sued very easily for what you're
That's
doing.
that's true.
Yeah, you have to know your own legal end. You have to know your own at least you have to manage your relationship with a CPA to do your stuff. Um,
Yes.
right? And then additionally to that, make sure that you have enough money going for intake, output, depending on what your services are. Let's say if you're a restaurant owner, you have real estate that you still have to pay. You still have your own employees that you have to pay. Then you also have other paperwork to do.
Yeah, lots more paperwork. Well, because there's a lot more responsibility in that case because there's more working components, especially when you're paying other people for their time or for
Oh
their
yeah.
talent or
So
their
it's
skills.
Yeah, it's a different level of responsibility, also a different level of value that you're giving, right?
Right.
So that's why I was saying levels. And then when you get to the point where you literally have as much money as you need, either through trust funds or through creating a business, selling the business, and now you have extra capital, you can invest that money into another business and then continue that way. And I was explaining that to Katie as like, these are the different concepts of where you can go.
Right. Which was great for an overview, but it didn't help with the part that I was struggling with, which was paths one, two, three, and four all being underneath of one umbrella.
Right. The reason why I explained these concepts to her was
Mm,
because there was a point where you're like, oh, I was just focusing on people giving us money for this one part of our business.
right.
And I was like, that's the employee mindset of like people giving us something. And that's what I was inferring.
Right. Which makes sense that people would be paying, like for example, paying for my time to build a landing page, or someone paying me for my time as a coach and walking them through a healing process. The crazy thing is my brain was still separating those, even though both of them are done 100% by me and it's 100% of my time, my brain was still separating that into two separate sources of income because one was
Right.
tech support and one was coaching.
Right. And this is what I needed to explain to Katie as like, so once you jump to the business owner concept,
Then it's all under the same umbrella anyways, and it doesn't matter.
it's all under one, yep, it's all under the same umbrella. So for instance, like podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to designate podcasts to a different level, not ours, so that we don't get in trouble
Yeah,
describing
no.
trade secrets to the public. But there are public podcasts out there. You can actually look at their business plans. So essentially, when you think about either podcasts or like even better yet, let's think about movies. Movies are actually their own LLC. They're their own company.
Each individual movie isn't considered, well, that makes sense because each individual movie, you have to pay the tech squad, you have to pay the actors, you have to pay whoever wrote the script, you have to pay all the people who are working and stuff like that. And only a percentage of that goes to whoever the producer or the production company, like
Okay, so we're gonna
MGM. Yeah,
so we're
walk
gonna
me backwards from this because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm making it up as I
it's
go along.
it's okay. I worked in film and TV and I've actually created budgets.
Which is, I don't know why I bother trying to sound like the expert because you are in this case.
It's okay. It's okay. So I understand. So when you think about it, you have they're actually their own individual LLC. They are, because it's one single IP that is housed in this one business license,
Okay.
right? And then there is an entire crew and production team and development team and maybe a studio. Maybe saying that very clearly here. Maybe a studio that is attached to a film. It doesn't always have to happen.
True, because there are independent filmmakers out there that aren't using professional studios.
Right. They
Blair
can
Witch Project is coming to mind.
that one I don't know what to say about that. That budget was like under $500,000. Anyways, most films, like people don't even look at your film if the budget is less than $500,000. Because
Well, I
it's
thought Blair Witch Project was. Never mind. We're going on a rabbit hole. Never mind, Katie.
anyways,
Shush.
sorry, back to what we were saying. So the Blair Witch Project, didn't it have t-shirts?
Well, it did. Okay. My understanding is that it was a film made by a bunch of college students and then was submitted by their professor to, I could be wrong. Feel free to tell me if I'm wrong, but I'd like the professor or one of the kids submitted it to some indie film thing. And then it picked up traction, and then it was picked up by a big studio, and that's when all the merch and everything else started coming out.
Exactly. Those are the ancillary sales. That's the merch. That's the pinwheel of different things that could be attached to this one created idea that just happened to be compliantly grounded. And then people bought into it and kept buying into it
Yeah.
because they fell in love. There's even a cult following for that. Now let's think about our let's think about a bit bigger audience, right? Let's think about
Okay. Think about what?
Marvel, right?
Okay. Superheroes. Gotcha.
Superheroes. I actually don't know if all of that is one individual IP, intellectual property. But one movie, all right, let me break it down to less complex. What's a movie that came out that people Star Wars. There we go, Star Wars. That's actually less complex.
Okay.
So when we
That's
think of
that's funny that you're saying Star Wars is less complex than superheroes, but
because if you think about the Marvel universe, these are different,
yeah, that's a whole
like
bunch
these
of
are
crazy stuff.
different. This is a whole universe of different timelines. If we think about
Right.
Star Wars, there's a bunch of different timelines, sure, but they did a very good job of keeping it very like one timeline per story,
Yes.
which is
I
nice.
agree with that. Yeah.
So if you think about it from the IP of Star Wars came from the movies. Then they had the who was it? George Lucas had bought the rights to all the toys.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he like didn't buy he like I think relinquished the rights, not relinquished. He sold off the rights to the movies and bought all the toys, like the rights to the toys instead. Brilliant move because they're still selling. Do you know how much a Death Star Lego is? Like the actual, it's a
They
thousand
have,
dollars
yeah.
for one of those things, and collectors want it. Anyways, so I'm saying based off of that one IP, people are buying into a piece of it based off of the different types of property, and that's all under one umbrella of Star Wars.
That okay, yes. Okay. Thank you for the Star Wars analogy because that makes it easier on my brain because I can understand that there's money coming in from the toys, there's money coming in from the costumes, there's money coming in from the TV shows, the movies, all of those different components, and it still all falls under Star Wars.
Yep, the licensing of the plays and the musicals that are there. I didn't, I found those
I
out.
did I didn't even know that they did those. Okay.
Yeah,
Another
they
rabbit
do
hole.
those. They do those.
It doesn't surprise me that they do. I love the fact that they're taking pre-existing stuff and turning them into musicals because some of them are really good.
But that's exact. So
Mm.
all of that pinwheels, and that's kind of when you have one very structured but solid intellectual property piece and you own the rights to it. That's the important part. You have to own the rights to it. You
Yes,
can you can create that pinwheel of different types of sales just from that one thing that people love.
true. And again, it was just one of those that the way how my brain was working, it just wasn't connecting all of those dots. But
Right?
this does make it easier to connect those dots because I can now see parallels with other, I'll just say entities, because some of the ones I'm thinking of, they weren't businesses for years. There's a podcast, not a podcast. There's a YouTube channel that I absolutely love. That for years it was just a bunch of people hanging out playing games. But they ended up getting such a large following that they started to create merch. And they've turned it into they have their own like business LLC now and they have some kind of one of those broadcasting channel thing, their own streaming service, so to speak. So it's expanded a lot.
Right?
And it
Exactly.
still all falls underneath of where it started.
Exactly. And that's
And my brain just didn't make the connection, so thank you very much.
very welcome. I use diaphragms. I use different levels of understanding of businesses. I was doing everything to get the map going so that Katie could see why like it's not just this one section where you can get paid. And then also this is where I was like, all right, time to record. This is the so when you think about money, some people, yes, they do think about it as effort equals compensation. It
Right?
can. And we were talking about this too a long time ago. There was another episode that we had about how Katie mentioned, like, did I put the work in to receive the compensation?
Yes. And that was a very interesting roadblock. Mind block? I don't know, whatever. Speed bump. It was a very interesting challenge that I had. Because there was a time where I would do someone asked help for something, and instead of it taking the 5 hours that they anticipated, I got it done in 30 minutes. And they paid me the equivalent of 5 hours of time. And I'm like, but I only did 30 minutes of work.
Right, but it would have taken them more than 5 hours.
It would have taken them, it would have taken, they had already been struggling with it for 5 days. So I knew that whatever I was doing was going to be a lot faster than what they had already had time wise invested in. So, but that was part of the mindset shifting on how much is my time actually worth.
Right. And this,
And this is just another component of mindset shifting around it's not necessarily what it's worth, but what's the value that other people see in it.
right. And value goes, all right, let's talk about value too. A lot of people use the word value, and you're like, what the heck? Like, no one's really giving you a concrete. Has anyone given you a concrete understanding of what value really is?
Value is what someone is willing to pay for something.
Okay. So my definition,
That's like the basic description on how it was explained to me for creating landing pages. When someone is building a course and it's got 6 videos in it, and each video is an hour long, and it took an hour to record, and it took another 30 minutes to edit for each one of those videos, and then you calculate all that times however much you want to get paid an hour, and that's the value that was put into the making of the product. Was how it was explained to me when I first started my entrepreneurial journey 6 years ago.
All right, we're gonna go a little quantum on this. So,
Okay, light speed.
light light speed. You know what's the fastest way to like receive money? And this is a manifesting hack to anybody out there.
Okay,
You want
for all you manifestors out there,
There's a problem in the world that you feel deeply that you know you can solve, right?
right?
Then you determine to do it and you state it out loud and you just continue to do it. Then all the resources out of the universe find their way to you because the universe needs help. And you are the universe too, so you can provide that help. That's
That's
just
true.
like, and then it helps you in return. That's how that works. Sorry, at a
Okay.
granular level, that is how that works. Like the
Okay.
moment you're like, there's this big thing that the world needs. I know I can give this and the world will receive it and like put it somewhere where the world can receive it at high volume.
Okay.
And you make sure like there's terms and conditions. Like, don't
Yeah.
you need to stay alive and people don't pick. Um, uh, you put the terms and conditions there, and then that buffer itself, what you that's how you get money to solve the problem. And it depends on how big the problem is.
True, because there are people who will pay to have somebody else, quote unquote, solve their problem.
Their problem, right?
Yes. So, like, for example, right now, I can't use my left arm because I injured my shoulder. So, if there was a device that made it easy to hold a can and use a can opener at the same time with only one hand, so I can open up a can of soup, I would invest in that device right now. Granted, I'm not going to need it for the rest of my life because my shoulder's going to heal, but I would invest in that device.
There is one. There's a can opener that does the twirl thing. Mhm.
I'm using that as a very rough example. I
You know
don't
how expensive those
actually.
are?
Right
They're really
now,
very expensive.
I'm just using that as an example right this second, days. I don't actually need a super fancy can opener.
I'm using the example to explain your thing. And
But
then
still,
they mass produce it.
someone had the idea to create it and they mass produced it and people were buying it because it solved a problem that they had not considered trying to fix themselves.
Yeah. The
That
moment
that
you're
that was where I was trying to go with that and it completely went off the
it's
rails.
it's okay. I was trying to explain like that's so when you have the idea and it works and you have a
Yeah.
tangible product that you've tried and you've tested and it keeps working, you have the confidence to tell people, hey, this thing works. And then somebody out of nowhere will be like, oh my gosh, 5 million people need that. I don't know where the Southern accent came from. 5 million people need that. I will
And
give you this much amount of money for this much of your company. Like that kind of
right. The whole Shark Tank thing. I get it.
yeah, but sometimes if you filter it out correctly and you have a very clear set of values that you want to align with, um, air quotes values, okay.
Yes. Back to
Uh,
values.
Sometimes you won't get the shark. Like right now, a shark is
That's true.
trying to call me and I'm not answering.
Do we need to end our podcast early so you could go answer the shark call?
No, it's not aligned yet. So we're gonna
Okay.
we're gonna keep going
Okay,
if it's
good.
aligned.
Because my brain just went to Baby Shark theme song, so we need to change the topic real quick.
Katie's recovering everyone. So her brain is even more fun right now.
And believe it or not, I have not had any pain meds for over 12 hours. So I am doing really good, all things considered.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. It's what happens for being clumsy.
I still want you to eat and take your
I
meds.
will I will eat and take my meds when we are done recording. I promise. I
Okay, just
appreciate you caring and taking care of me virtually across the country.
thank you. I appreciate you too. You see, value. I provided. Please take care of yourself. She said thank you. There's a there's a thing.
I
This
love
is a
how you type
thing
this into that.
because it's quantum. I just
That's true. That's true.
I'm trying to give people the quantum understanding of this.
Yeah.
By the way, if you ever research quantum, that
I
will.
am not going to start researching more stuff while we're recording.
Well, it's fun. I never really researched it. I just found a quantum physicist on a hike once, and we had a really good conversation. And he changed my neuroplasticity quite diligently after that one conversation, and after I didn't climb a waterfall. It's great. So back to what we were saying. So the different types of mindsets, understanding it's like, what are you willing to give? That is actually how you manifest all the resources around what you are determined to give. And that will be money a good portion of the time. That will be people who
Time.
can bring money. What?
It'll give you back time.
It could give you back time. It could. Could.
Yeah. I mean there's many different possibilities on it. And that's the one thing that I've realized is it's not just, for lack of a better term, I am a one-trick pony because I am doing everything myself for my company.
Yes. There's something that you mentioned that we have to kind of go back to a little bit though. You said it could give back time.
Yeah, it could give back. If you are giving, how do I want to phrase this? One of the things that I do is I crochet bonding squares, which, for those that don't know, these are squares that NICU babies and their moms, they each get one and then they trade every time that they visit. So then that way baby gets used to mom's smell and mom gets used to baby smell. It helps with milk production and bonding and all this other kinds of stuff like that.
I'm a NICU baby.
I am creating these bonding squares and donating them to this organization. That is freeing up their time instead of making them themselves to let people know about this brand new nonprofit that's only been around for about a year and to get the squares that have already been made to the hospitals, to the NICU centers, so then that way the process can be started. That's what I meant by giving something, people are receiving time.
Got it. Okay, because
And
I'm
I
a
get to, and I end up getting time because I like to crochet.
okay, so as a time bender,
Well, yeah, you're the time bender. I'm not. So,
it's a little so when I think about like what do you mean? See mindsets? I'm like
mhm.
because so as a air quotes time bender, some man there's a few manifesting generators that have this type of natural ability is to find like the fastest route to closing a gap versus like 15 roads that get to the center of a
Yeah,
map. So like
it's, or
it's
it's
not
like
that
being, it's, well, my definition of time bending is when you're in that zone, when you're in that flow state, and you can get like 30 million things done in the equivalent of 1 hour. And when you are not in flow state, it takes you 30 hours to complete one task.
so
That's how I understand time bending when it comes to myself and people around me.
oh, so time bending could be like you're thinking about you want to let's go back to movies. Let's say you
Okay.
want to produce a film that has has like like a probably like the next Forrest Gump, right? Like you want to
Okay.
create the next Forrest Gump. Do I need to write it? No. Do I need to hold the camera? No. Do I need to grip the sound boom all in 30? No. what I need to do as a time bender is find the people who can do it and put them together. And then
Gotcha.
we got it going faster because all of them have their expertise. And don't get me wrong, less of like, I need to find them. They normally find me,
That's true, because random people have come up to you and they'll be like the person to solve a problem for somebody that you had spoken to like 3 days ago.
right? Like Walter O'Brien. I'm curious where that's gonna. Would you like to share that real quick? Go ahead, because
Okay,
look
so
at his face when I did
I,
this.
I I will admit that I was in a lot of pain when we were having this conversation, so I'm gonna try and remember it because this was right after I hurt my shoulder. You and I were talking on the phone, and you were talking about the TV show Scorpion,
Right. And I was
which
like, I just,
which I had seen. I'd seen. I want to say maybe the first 3 seasons. Don't think I've seen all of it, but I've seen a good chunk of it.
I've never seen it. And I was just like, I had the weird, I was telling Katie, I had the weirdest conversation with this guy. But you've watched the show. Okay, what's the show? Go ahead.
And so I started explaining, the gist of the show, that the main character has a really big IQ, but was low on emotional intelligence. At least that's the way it was portrayed in the TV show. And that I could understand how if you're gifted in one side of your brain, you might not be as gifted on the other side of the brain unless you learn and you study and everything else like that. And so I mentioned the character's name, Walter O'Brien, and Ace is like, "Well, that's who I was talking to." And I was like, wait. You mean to tell me that you were talking to the actual guy that this character is based off of? That is so cool.
Well, because I was like, wait, his name is Walter O'Brien. Like that's actually the name of the character.
That's the main character's name, yes.
And then I cracked up laughing. I'm like, yeah, I just talked to Walter O'Brien. Like, right. That's why I'm asking you why this conversation was so weird. Help me.
And I don't know if anything I said about the TV show helped you or not,
It didn't. It just
but
told me the name.
it's fascinating because from my perspective, very interesting people come into your world, and you are able to make the connections to get them to talk to whoever is in need of their expertise. Or you talk to someone and be like, "Oh, I know so and so already who has this expertise," and connect them with you. So you have that connector component of your profile, so to speak.
I do very well with collaborations, and
Yes.
I think there's like deep down, I actually do have a genuine curiosity about people. Like I'm like, how do you tick? Like I kid you not, that's just how I am. So that's probably a good portion as to why I'm so present at when I'm not traumatized. I've I'm very present with people when I'm like, what's that? Like I'm curious about a human
Right.
being. And then once I find out what they do, 3 days before I need to connect them with somebody, I
Yeah.
weird because it's strange. It's like I just don't know why. I'm just collecting all of these wonderful individuals, their contact information in my phone.
Well, the capability of being able to make those kinds of referrals and be that kind of connector is a skill that I don't see that often in person. I see a lot of it online where people will send messages or emails to connect people together.
It's also invaluable when you have
Yeah,
the right connection and it's solid and it actually produces an
result.
incredible value.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Well, yeah. I don't know about you. How often do you find people like that who can do that?
Well, considering the fact that I didn't even know that that was a possibility until I started my whole entrepreneurship path, I would say in the last 6 years, I can think of 3 people who are just natural connectors. For lack of a better term, they seem to gather people or gather communities and just be able to be that within 5 seconds of a conversation. Oh, you want to speak to this person? They're an expert on this. Or, oh, I know somebody who has a problem that you just gave me the solution for. Let me connect you with them. So it's from It seems very popular if you consider just a 6 year time frame as to how many people I've come across who can do this. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
for
that's not
instance,
something that I had
because
thought of before,
it's not producers are connectors.
which makes perfect sense because
Film producers are connectors, yeah.
it would
Um,
make sense to have that skill in that position.
exactly. And then, for instance, I we found Nicole
Hmm.
through a mutual network person who encouraged me to do this podcast, and then I found you, and then we did it. And it's like a and then we continue to connect and build with the interviewees, and yeah. Well, usually when I think about connecting, it doesn't produce results immediately.
Well, no, because for example, this podcast would not have lasted as long as it has if you and I did not get along and have a good relationship.
Yeah, you got to build trust.
Yeah, you have to build the trust. You have to make sure that you are on the same wavelength on values and
Yeah.
frequency and everything else like that. And the clear communication is the big key.
Yeah, and you naturally have to build the trust too. So like clear communication, yes, that's another component of like if you're clear with somebody and you naturally communicate with that person in a way where you feel like you can clearly state things or ask for clarity, because Katie asks me for clarity all the time.
Of course I do, because
I don't always clearly
there
state things.
there's aspects of the world that you have a better understanding of than I do. Just like there's aspects of the world that I have a more clear understanding than what you do. Because you will call me and ask me questions all the time too.
Yeah, like why is this normal? It's my main question to Katie is like, wait, I thought no, people don't do that. Uh-oh.
Though I will say, because we're gonna have to wrap this up soon anyways, but I will say that I can identify the moment that you earned all of my trust.
Oh, please. I'd love to hear that. Thank you.
You had called me on the phone and asked if I was available to talk, and I had said something along the lines like, I've only got like 10 minutes before I have to hop on a Zoom call. And you said, okay, I only need 5. And you set the timer on your phone. You asked me questions. I gave you an answer. You were going to ask something else, and you're like, "Oh, I gotta go. All right, have fun on your call. Bye." Click. And I mean, you literally hung up at 4 minutes and 58 seconds on my phone.
I timed
So it
it.
literally was less than a 5 minute phone call when I told you I had 10 minutes. The fact that you've respected my time and my boundary so instantly is what instantly gave you my trust. Because that's not something that I had ever experienced before about someone honoring my time.
Oh, I
So
appreciate
you
that.
know I love you.
I love you too. Yeah, it's important, especially if it's because the amount of energy people have. It's sometimes like sometimes you don't have enough energy to keep your boundaries.
Yeah,
And
no, sometimes we only have so many spoons to give. I
yeah, no, it's especially if you're running and you're doing a lot and you have a lot of things to work on and like especially as an entrepreneur, because your energy is just as much value as your time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Hence why.
and being aware of that. And I will admit not having very strong boundaries at the very beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, but that's why we learn.
That's also, yes, it's why we learn, and it's also very common. So anyone out there that's starting their entrepreneurial journey, you just build your boundaries stronger, I promise.
Yeah. And we have great resources for that between us and other people that we know on teaching on boundaries. So feel free to drop a message and we'll connect you with people, someone
Yeah.
locally or someone who does virtual stuff.
Or book a time with us. That
No,
works
no,
too.
book it with
Yeah.
Ace. Ace is better at boundaries than I am.
I do my best. I do my best. I'm not the best, but I do my best. So yes, I'm here to support.
You helped me create some of my boundaries. That's why I'm saying.
Oh, all right. Well, on
All
that
right.
note,
On that note, we love you, everyone. Take care.
bye.
Bye. If this conversation stirred something in you, don't just sit with it, work with it. You can go deeper with us through our sessions, workshops, and community experiences designed to support your growth in real time.
All the details are in the show notes, and if this episode resonated, share it with someone who's ready to meet themselves a little more honestly. Until next time, challenge what you believe.
Choose who you become.